The 2024-25 Premier League season is finally here. It is starting in only 1 week's time. And with that being said, I thought this would be the perfect time to create my Premier League predictions from 20th place all the way down to first place. In today's video, I'll be predicting every single place for each Premier League team for next season, starting at 20th place and finishing at first place. Within the last few months, I have been very inconsistent with YouTube and I've only been uploading a few videos. This was mainly because I was on vacation, but now I'm finally back. I'm back in my regular setup and I'll be uploading weekly videos like I was before. If you guys are excited for next season, remember to leave a like on this video and remember to leave a comment down below telling me what your Premier League predictions are for next season. And without further ado, let's get right into this video. Starting off with the 3 teams that I think will be getting relegated next season: 20th place, 19th, and 18th place. Now, obviously, I could just go with the 3 teams that have newly been promoted: Ipswich, Southampton, and Leicester. That is what happened last season, and generally, the 3 teams that do get promoted are most likely to go back down. But in my opinion, there will be one team that will survive the relegation battle, and that will be Leicester. Obviously, Ipswich Town had an incredible season last year in the Championship, and in my opinion, they kind of reminded me a little bit of Luton Town, a team who weren't really expected to do well in the Championship and were playing League One not too long ago, but surprised everyone and made it into the Premier League. But in my opinion, I do think they are probably the worst team, and for that reason, I think Ipswich Town will finish in 20th place. Finishing in 19th place, and the other newly promoted team I think will be Southampton. In my opinion, last season they didn't do particularly well in the Championship. They barely advanced over Leeds United, and for that reason I think they will be finishing in 19th place, and they are the other newly promoted team to go down. Finishing in 18th place, now this may be a little bit controversial, I've gone with Everton Football Club. Within recent years, Everton have been just surviving relegation every single year, and in my opinion, last season, I thought they were definitely going to go down. They had points deductions, there was a lot of problems with the club, but they ended up surviving. But this season, they have sold a few of their key players from last season, most notably Amadou Onana. And to be honest, I just don't think they have the depth in their squad to be able to stay up. And for that reason, I think Everton finally, after many years, will be going down to the Championship. Now, moving on to 17th place, in my opinion, the team that will just survive the relegation zone will be the other newly promoted team, and that is Leicester City. Obviously, Leicester City not too long ago won the Premier League, which shocked everyone. But obviously 2 years ago, they had a very poor season in the Premier League, and they did get demoted down into the Championship. Now, last season in the Championship, they did finish in first place. They played pretty well, and now coming into the Premier League, I do think they will survive, but obviously with the loss of their manager Maresca, who recently went to Chelsea, I don't think they have what it takes to finish any higher than 17th place. Moving on to 16th. Now again, this may be a little bit of a surprising choice. I've put Wolverhampton Wanderers. This summer, they haven't really done a lot of business on the transfer market. They did lose Max Kilman, who went to West Ham, who was an amazing center back for them last season. And for that reason, I don't really see them doing much this season, and I do think they will finish in 16th place. Moving on to 15th place, I have AFC Bournemouth. I think this is a fairly average choice. I don't think anyone is too shocked by this. Moving on to 14th place, I think this will be Nottingham Forest. Obviously, they do have Nuno Santo as their manager, who in my opinion isn't a great manager, but with the squad depth that Nottingham Forest have, within the last few years, they have made so many transfers, a ridiculous amount of transfers, and to be honest, it's never really worked out. But with, again, that squad depth that they have, I don't think they will be going down. I think they will finish in a relatively mediocre position in 14th place. Moving on to 13th place, again, this isn't really a surprising choice. I have put Fulham. I feel like Fulham do have a pretty good squad. Obviously, they have Marco Silva as their manager. In the defense, in the midfield, and even in the attack, they have very experienced players. They have a few great talents, and I do think they will finish around mid-table in 13th place. Finishing in 12th place, I do think will be Brentford. I thought last season they were very disappointing, finishing in 16th place. The season before that, they did much better, finishing in 9th. And this season, I do think they will be much better than last season, finishing in 12th. Finishing in 11th place, and this is definitely a drop-off from where they were 2 years ago, I've put Brighton and Hove Albion. 2 years ago, Brighton finished in 6th place. They had Europa League last season, and they were much better than what a lot of people thought. but last season they really underperformed in the Premier League, and this season I think they will again. They have made a few good moves in the transfer market. They've signed Mats Vijver from Ajax, and they've also signed Minte from Newcastle. And both of these players obviously have played together at Feyenoord last season, as Minte was on loan. And for that reason, I think they will play pretty good this season, but I think they will finish in a relatively mediocre position at 11th place. Moving on to 10th place. Now this may be a shocking choice, and I do think this team will definitely drop off next season, and that is Newcastle United. Personally, I like Newcastle. I like a lot of their players. I think they have great midfielders, great attackers. Obviously, they will be getting Tonali back as his ban is finally finished. But in my opinion, I don't know if Eddie Howe is the right manager to take them to that next level. I feel like Newcastle haven't really made any new signings. Their main squad will pretty much be the same team that they were playing with last season. And obviously last season they did underperform, finishing in 7th place. And this season, I think they will do worse than last season. 10th place may be a little bit low, but personally I do think they will struggle, and that's why I have put them finishing at mid-table. Finishing in 9th place, and this is a team that I think every single year are going to keep getting better. I think their squad is getting better every single year. I think they have a good manager, and that is Crystal Palace. Last season when Oliver Glasner came into Crystal Palace, I thought that he really changed the mentality of the players in this team. Their attackers, their midfielders, players like Mateta, who were never really that incredible, played very, very well towards the end of last season. I thought they were very, very good in the second half. And this season, I think they're going to do even better than last season, finishing in 9th place. And I do think Crystal Palace have a pretty bright future within the next few years. Finishing in 8th place, now this may be another shocking choice. I've put Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea over the last few years have been a roller coaster of a football club. They have been doing the most craziest signings, spending loads and loads of money, buying loads of teenagers, and I'm not really sure what's going on. 2 years ago, they finished in 12th place. Last season, they did do a lot better than expected, finishing in 6th place. But this season, I do think they will drop off a little bit from how they were last season. Obviously, they have recently signed the Italian manager Enzo Maresca, who personally, I don't know what to think of him. I don't know how he's going to play. I heard from a lot of Leicester City fans that last season, towards the end of the season especially, he wasn't really getting his squad to play the best football. And obviously Chelsea did sign a few new players this summer, mainly teenagers, because they have this ideal that they want their whole squad to be full of teenagers, which in my opinion isn't really a good idea, because I think they need some veterans. They need some players who have won things in the past to know how to perform, to know how to lead the squad. And with all these teenagers that they have, one of the biggest squads in football, they have so many players on their squad. I think, to be honest, this season is going to be chaos again. I don't think they're going to perform that well, and I do think they are going to finish in 8th place. Finishing in 7th place, I've put West Ham United. West Ham have made some great signings this summer. They signed Max Kilman from Wolves, they signed Crescencio Somerville from Leeds, and they also signed this young Brazilian Guilherme, who I've heard some great things about. They do have Lopetegui as their manager, who I'm not a big fan of, but I do think David Moyes, it was time for him to go, to be honest. And I think Lopetegui will do a better job than him. I think West Ham have an incredible squad, and I do think that next season they will perform better than they did last season, finishing in 7th place. Moving on to 6th place, I think will be Aston Villa. Last season, they heavily overperformed. They did very, very well, and they finished in the Champions League spots for the first time in I don't know how long. Obviously, Aston Villa do have a great squad, and their manager, Unai Emery, is an incredible manager. He's managed some incredible teams. He's a proven winner. He's won many, many trophies. But this season, they will be playing Champions League football, which will make it much harder for them in the Premier League. And for that reason, I do think they will drop off a little bit. Obviously, they did sign Onana, but I don't think he's going to help them that much. I think they will drop down a little bit from where they were last season, finishing in 6th place. Moving on to 5th place. Now this may be another surprising one. I've put Liverpool Football Club. Yes, they do have a great team. They have some incredible players, but they have an aging team. A lot of their best players like Mohamed Salah, players like Van Dijk, are starting to get up there in age. And yes, they did make a lot of great signings last season, but this summer they haven't made any signings. They obviously have a new manager in a new country who has all these players to work with, and I think it will be a little bit overwhelming for Arne Slot. I still think 5th place is a good finish for Liverpool, but it is a small drop off from how they were performing last season. Moving on to 4th place, I do think it will be Tottenham. Now, I think Tottenham last season performed much better than what a lot of people thought. Obviously, it was Postecoglou's first season, and I think he did very, very well. Now, this summer, they have made a couple signings. Mainly, they signed Archie Gray from Leeds, who, in my opinion, is one of the best young English talents out there, and I think he is going to play incredibly next season for Tottenham Hotspur. Finishing in 3rd place, and again, this may be another unexpected choice, I've put Manchester United. I've been hearing so many people talk about Man United like they're a horrible team, they have a horrible manager, they have no chemistry, but in my opinion, I've never really been a big fan of Ten Hag, but I've never got all the people saying Ten Hag out. In my opinion, I think he's done a lot of great things for Man United. In his first season, he's made a lot of great signings for them. And I think that with Ten Hag as their manager again this season, they have a good chance to finish in the Champions League spots. In my opinion, there's only 2 possible outcomes for Man United this season. Either they do what I'm saying, they have a good season, Erik Ten Hag does very good, their new players perform well, and they finish in the Champions League spots, or they perform very poorly, Erik Ten Hag gets sacked, and they end up finishing in 7th or 8th place again like last season. In my opinion, it will be the first option. I think they will have a surprisingly good season, and that's why I've put them in 3rd place. And finally, moving on to 2nd and 1st place, there's only 2 teams left, Arsenal and Manchester City. Who do I think will win the Premier League season for 2024-25? I think it will be Arsenal. Obviously, I did predict Arsenal to win the Premier League last season, and they did end up finishing in 2nd place. But this season, after all the things that they've been through in recent years, finishing in 2nd place for 2 consecutive seasons, they obviously have made a couple good signings so far this summer. I do think they finally have what it takes to make it over the line and finish in 1st place. Manchester City once again haven't really made many signings this summer because their team is just too good, their manager is too good, and everything about them is pretty much perfect. But I think Arsenal this season will have what it takes to beat Manchester City, and I think Manchester City will finish in 2nd place. In my opinion, if Arsenal does not finish in 1st place this season, I think something has to happen with Mikel Arteta, because if they finish in 2nd place for 2 consecutive seasons and they finish in 2nd place again, they've been coming so close to Manchester City, and Manchester City haven't really been changing anything. Arsenal have only been getting better every single season, and for that reason, I think it's going to be very, very close, but I do think they are going to be able to come away with the Premier League title for the 2024-25 season. And that is the end of this video. Those are my Premier League predictions for the 2024-25 season. If you guys agree with my prediction, remember to leave a comment down below. But if you disagree with my predictions, remember to leave your Premier League predictions again in the comments down below. And if you guys did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.